Father's Day was supposed to be peaceful. At least, that's what I'd hoped when I woke up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee and the soft rustle of my wife Helen in the kitchen. After 38 years of marriage, we had settled into a rhythm, quiet mornings, crossword puzzles, and shared looks that said more than words ever could. But all of that shattered with one sentence. "Dad, I need the money now, not after you're dead." The mug in Samantha's hand slipped and exploded against the hardwood, shards skittering across the floor and coffee bleeding into the rug like a wound. Her manicured fingers trembled, her eyes flashing not regret, but entitlement. I stood there, fingers tightening around the folder that held our estate documents. 30 years of meticulous saving. 30 years of compound interest, insurance policies, wills carefully reviewed and updated. Now she wanted it all, early. "I'm not an ATM," I said, my voice low but firm. "You'll receive your inheritance when the time comes, not before." Her husband, Cole, leaned back into the couch like he was settling in for a show. "Come on, Ray. What's a few $1,000 between family?" I turned to him slowly. "A few thousand last month. 5,000 the month before. 10 when your sports betting crashed. Remind me again how this qualifies as helping." "Because she's your daughter," he said, smug and casual. "That's exactly why I won't help you ruin her," I snapped. Helen entered then, wiping her hands on a towel. "Let's not do this," she said gently. "Let's talk calmly." "Calmly?" Samantha shot back. "While he sits on hundreds of thousands and watches us drown." I said nothing at first. I only looked at her, the designer handbag on her shoulder, the gold watch, the polished nails. Drowning didn't look quite so glamorous in my day. "You made your choices," I said finally. "And I made mine. I worked double shifts to get you through college, sold my car when your mother's medical bills stacked up, skipped vacations, ate leftovers. So one day, we could all breathe a little easier. That day is not today, not for people who see me as a wallet instead of a father." The silence that followed was sharp. "Get out," I said. Samantha stared at me like I had slapped her. "You can't kick out your own daughter. Watch me." And I did. As the front door slammed and their SUV peeled out of the driveway, I looked down at the spilled coffee, the broken glass, the scattered inheritance papers. This was only the beginning. The front door had barely stopped rattling when Helen crossed the living room and knelt beside the broken mug, collecting the shards with trembling fingers. I moved to help, but she waved me off, her expression unreadable. The silence in the room was heavier than the shouting that had filled it moments earlier. I sat down slowly, my knees stiff, and picked up the family photo that had fallen face down during the argument. The silver frame was scratched now, and the glass was cracked across the corner. A younger Samantha stared up at me, 6 years old, missing her front teeth, arms wrapped around our old Labrador. Her smile was pure joy. That little girl was gone. Helen joined me on the couch, her voice soft. "She's angry. Scared, maybe." "She's entitled," I replied. "And worse, she thinks love is something that can be leveraged." Helen didn't argue. She just sighed and picked up one of the estate papers from the floor. "She used to draw us pictures of the three of us holding hands. Remember? You kept them in your desk for years." "I still have them," I said. "In the back of the file drawer, right next to the receipts for her tuition, the check stubs from her first car, and the bills from her wedding." She glanced at me. "You kept all that?" "Of course," I said. "Every dollar we gave was a piece of our lives." And now she's throwing mugs and threatening to withhold our grandchildren. Helen flinched. "You don't think she really would?" She's done it before. A week here, 2 weeks there. Every time we said no. She knows how to strike where it hurts. I reached for my phone and opened a message that had arrived only minutes after the door slammed. Hope you're happy, Dad. The kids needed new coats and school supplies. But I guess your precious money matters more. Don't expect to see Emma or Ben anytime soon. I showed it to Helen. She inhaled sharply, covering her mouth. She's using them again. I won't let her hold us hostage anymore, I said firmly. Not with guilt, not with threats, not with the kids. Helen looked at me, 100 worries swimming in her eyes. Ray, what if this is the end of the line? What if she doesn't come back from this? I leaned forward and rested my elbows on my knees. Then maybe it's time we start protecting ourselves instead of her. The days that followed passed in a strange hush. No texts, no voicemails, not even the usual snide emails Cole would occasionally send, laced with sarcasm and passive-aggressive quotes about supportive fathers. The silence was unsettling, not peaceful, not healing, just Helen and I tiptoed around the void like it might swallow us whole. Then, on Sunday morning, Father's Day, I was sitting on the porch with my paper and a cup of coffee when a brown delivery truck slowed to a stop in front of the house. I wasn't expecting anything. Neither of us had ordered a thing. The driver hopped out, a plain cardboard box in hand, and offered a cheerful nod. "Happy Father's Day, Mr. Lawson." "That's me," I said cautiously, signing the tablet. He handed me the box, medium-sized, light, no return address. No unusual smell, just a neat label with my name and our address. And on the side, in tiny, barely noticeable dots, holes. I turned it slowly. They weren't accidental. They were punched, symmetrical, and clean. Ventilation holes. Ray. Helen stood in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. "Who sent that?" I stepped inside, box tucked under one arm, and set it down gently on the coffee table. No clue. She joined me, peering over the edge with squinted eyes. "There are holes in it. For breathing." My stomach dropped. She was right. Once you saw them, you couldn't unsee them. Pinhole-sized cuts, lined across one end of the box. "There's something alive in there," Helen whispered. A faint sound followed, barely audible, like something shifting against cardboard. I held my breath. Then it came again. A hiss. Helen took 2 full steps back. "Ray, what is that?" I didn't answer. My mind was already racing through every recent fight, every raised voice, every cold silence. And one name rose through the fog like a buoy in black water. My hand hovered over the phone. I was no longer wondering what was in the box. I was wondering who had sent it and what they wanted me to feel. The hiss came again. Longer this time, unmistakable. Helen's voice was a brittle whisper. "Call someone, Ray. Now." My fingers moved before my brain could catch up, dialing 911 with the muscle memory of a man whose calm had just been shattered. As the operator's voice came on, my own words tumbled out like water bursting through a dam. "Yes, ma'am. My name is Ray Lawson. We received a suspicious package at our home. It's making sounds. Hissing. There are breathing holes. I think something's alive inside." "Are you in immediate danger, sir?" she asked, her tone professional but urgent. "We haven't opened the box," I said, "but it's moving. Do not touch the package. Stay at least 6 feet away. We're dispatching officers and animal control now." Helen and I retreated to the hallway, eyes fixed on the coffee table like it was a live grenade. The house, once warm and familiar, suddenly felt foreign, like a stranger had walked in and left something behind, something meant to scare us. Or worse, what if it's a prank? Helen asked quietly, like a sick joke. I don't think this is a joke, I replied. Not from her. I didn't need to say Samantha's name. We both knew who I meant. Helen closed her eyes. Ray, she wouldn't. She would. She's been getting worse for years. The threats, the guilt, the manipulation. This is just the next level. A rustle from the box cut through the air like a blade. Our old grandfather clock ticked slowly in the corner, each second dragging behind the last. I thought about the messages, the mug, the tantrums, the credit card she maxed out with no remorse. And then I thought about the quiet cruelty of sending something alive, something unknown, in a box on Father's Day. A deliberate message. I used to hold her when she had nightmares, I said, barely recognizing my own voice. She'd cry until I rocked her back to sleep. I remember, Helen said, her voice cracking. The doorbell rang. We both jumped. I opened the door to two officers, one older, one younger, standing beneath the front awning, rain beginning to mist around their shoulders. Mr. Lawson, the senior officer asked. We're here for the package. I pointed silently toward the living room, and as they stepped inside it hit me. This wasn't about a box anymore. It was about what it meant for a child to turn against her parents, and what a father would do when the line was finally crossed. Officer Grant, the older of the two, moved with quiet authority. His partner, Officer Delgado, scanned the room with narrowed eyes, already assessing exits and potential threats. The box sat innocently on the coffee table, same brown cardboard, same faint holes, same soft rustling that no longer seemed so faint. Have either of you touched it since it arrived? Officer Grant asked, slipping on a pair of latex gloves. No, sir, I replied. It hasn't moved, but it's alive. We're sure of that. Grant gave a curt nod and leaned in, his flashlight beam slicing across the box. Delgado stood nearby, hand resting casually on his holster. They'd seen things like this before. Maybe not often, but enough to know this wasn't just an overreaction from two aging parents. No return label, Grant muttered. Just the shipping info. Priority service. Sunday delivery. He ran a finger along the side and paused. Puncture holes. Ventilation. Delgado stepped closer, expression tightening. This could be animal cruelty, or something worse. Let's call in animal control. Grant reached for his radio, requesting backup. Meanwhile, Helen and I hovered near the hallway, barely breathing. The box rustled again, more aggressively this time. A hiss followed, unmistakable, sharp and reptilian. I've got a bad feeling about this, I murmured. Within 10 minutes, a white van rolled into our driveway. Animal control printed in bold navy across the side. A man stepped out, lean, with a calm stride and thick gloves hooked to his belt. Name's Carl, he said. Let's take a look. He approached the box like a bomb technician, reading every detail with a practiced eye. Then slowly, using a long-handled grabber tool, he lifted the flaps. Everyone tensed. A beat passed. Then another. Then Carl exhaled and spoke. 3-foot corn snake. Non-venomous. Young. Someone paid good money for it. Helen clutched my arm. A snake. Carl nodded. Used to be popular as beginner pets. But you don't just ship them like this. Not unless you're making a point. He slipped the animal into a secure container. The tension in the room deflated, but only slightly, because now we had an answer, and more questions. Grant turned to me. Mr. Lawson, do you have any idea who might have sent this? I hesitated, looked at Helen. Her eyes said what mine wouldn't. We knew exactly who. But admitting it out loud felt like admitting something was broken forever. Maybe, I said quietly, but I'd like to be sure first. Grant gave me a long look but didn't press. I'll leave you my card. Call me if anything changes. Carl nodded as he packed up the container. This one's going to a rescue center. He's lucky. You both are too. When they were gone, Helen and I stood in the silent living room. The table was empty again, but something far more dangerous than a snake had slithered its way into our home, and it had our daughter's fingerprints all over it. The sun was beginning to dip beyond the trees when I finally worked up the nerve to call Samantha. I had paced the length of the hallway 3 times, my thumb hovering over her contact, heart pounding harder than it should have. Helen stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the quiet street outside. She didn't stop me. She didn't encourage me either. I pressed call. It rang twice. "Dad." Samantha answered, her voice chipper, too chipper. "Happy Father's Day. How's your morning been?" My grip on the phone tightened. "Interesting." "Oh?" she asked, feigning innocence. "Did you get anything good?" There was something about her tone, artificial brightness, polished and practiced. She was laying it on thick, like she always did when she wanted something or had something to hide. "Got a package," I said carefully. "Came without a return label. Sunday delivery." Breathing holes. There was a pause, a beat too long. Then she laughed, awkward, high-pitched. "What are you talking about, Dad?" And that's when I heard it. In the background. A snicker. Not hers. His. Cole. It was short, sharp, and unmistakably smug. Not the confused laugh of someone overhearing something surprising. No, this was the laughter of someone who thought they were clever. Someone who believed they'd pulled off the perfect prank. It hit me like a slap. "You think this is funny?" I said quietly. "What?" Samantha replied, the cheer slipping. "Dad, I have no idea what you're—" "Don't." I cut her off. I heard him. There was a pause. Then her tone shifted, cooler, more defensive. "You're overreacting." It was a joke. A harmless joke. "A live snake is not harmless," I said. "It's not funny. And it sure as hell isn't love." "Come on," she snapped. "It wasn't venomous. It wasn't going to hurt you. You're just being dramatic." My voice dropped to a low, steady calm. "I called the police, Samantha. Animal control. They handled it, but they're documenting it." "You what?" she hissed. "You sent a living creature in a sealed box to your parents," I said. "That's not a prank. That's intent. That's cruelty." "I was trying to make a point," she shouted. "You shut us out. You're hoarding money while your own daughter and grandkids are drowning. Maybe this would get your attention." It got my attention. "All right." The silence on the line throbbed. Then she said it. The sentence that proved everything I'd feared. "You think this is over?" And she hung up. I stared at the screen in my hand, her name still glowing faintly before fading to black. Helen turned from the window. She laughed. She asked. "Cole did." Helen walked to me and gently took the phone from my hand. "I think," she said softly, "it's time we stopped being afraid of our own child." I nodded. "Tomorrow we make it official." The following morning was still and unnaturally quiet. No buzzing phone, no angry texts, just the soft hum of the refrigerator and Helen's footsteps moving gently through the kitchen. I sat alone in my office, blinds partially drawn, light filtering in across the cherrywood desk I'd had since my final promotion at the factory. The same desk where I'd written tuition checks, budgeted for Samantha's wedding, and paid off her credit cards more times than I could count. Now it was where I would end it. I opened my laptop and logged into our banking system. Years of enabling Samantha's lifestyle lived here in numbers, transfers to her account labeled emergency. Last time, just for this month. Every one of them a lie we had both willingly told. I opened the credit card account first. There it was, Reptile Palace, $127.50, 3 weeks ago, just after our last argument. The charge I'd brushed off at the time, assuming it was something for the kids. But no, it had been for the snake. The cursor hovered over her name. Authorized user, Samantha Lawson. She'd been added during college. I'd never removed her. Until now. Click. Remove authorized user. Confirm. Done. Next came the automatic payments. Her rent. Her car insurance. A gym subscription I didn't even know she still had. Cancel. Cancel. Each click felt like peeling off a weight I'd carried too long. There was no hesitation, no trembling. Just the cold, quiet understanding that this was the only way forward. Then the PIN numbers. I changed them all. Last I opened the shared emergency fund. The one she had accessed 3 times without permission, using saved passwords she was never supposed to have. Transfer. Every cent out of that account and into a secure savings only Helen and I could reach. By the time I was done, it was still only 9 a.m. I leaned back in my chair, hands folded over my stomach, and stared out the window at the slow sway of trees in the summer breeze. She'd wake up soon. She'd try to buy something, groceries, maybe, or gas. And for the first time in her life, the card would decline. There would be no backup. No one to call. No just this once check arriving in the mail. Because the man she used to call Dad, the one who always bailed her out, was gone. In his place was someone who had finally learned that loving your child doesn't mean destroying yourself. At precisely 8:17 a.m., the phone rang. Caller ID, Samantha. Helen stood in the hallway, her face unreadable. She didn't say anything, didn't need to. We both knew what was coming. I picked up on the 3rd ring. Dad, what the hell is going on? Her voice came in hot, words tumbling in rapid fire. My card got declined at the store. My car insurance payment bounced. I just got an alert that my rent transfer failed. I took a long sip of coffee before answering. I disabled everything. There was a stunned pause, then a snarl. You can't do that. I have responsibilities. I have bills. Peter and you have lived off my back long enough, I said calmly. 30 years of help, of bailouts, of warnings, and after sending us a live animal in the mail, you expect more. I told you it was a joke. No, Samantha, I said, voice level. It was a message. And now, so is this. She fell silent for a moment, and then her tone changed, hardening, sharpening like a blade pulled across a whetstone. Fine, you want to play it like this, then don't expect to see Emma and Ben. You can forget birthdays, holidays, school plays. You're out of their lives. The old me, the father who would have begged, bargained, apologized just to stay in their orbit, he might have cracked, but not now. I'm not the one making that decision, I said. You are. They're your grandchildren, she screamed. And one day, when they ask why they didn't see us growing up, I'll tell them the truth, that their mother didn't understand the difference between love and leverage. The line went dead. I set the phone down slowly, then looked over at Helen. Her eyes were glassy but dry. She used them, she whispered. Again. I know. Do you think she'll stop? I shook my head. No. I think she'll escalate. Helen wrapped her arms around herself, like she was holding together something fragile. She won't stop until she's sure she can't break us. And that, I said, standing from my chair, is exactly what I intend to show her. The next time she came to our door, she wouldn't find the same father waiting. She'd find a man with boundaries, with protection, with a plan. Because her threat wasn't just emotional this time, it was criminal. And I was done being afraid of my own daughter. It came just after 10 a.m., 2 sharp raps on the front door, followed by the unmistakable sound of someone jiggling the handle, impatient, entitled. Helen looked up from her tea. "She's here." I nodded. My heartbeat didn't spike. My palms didn't sweat. I simply stood, straightened my collar, and walked to the door like I'd been expecting an old creditor coming to collect. I opened it calmly. Samantha stood on the porch, arms crossed, eyes blazing. Cole lingered behind her, wearing that same smug sneer he always wore when he thought he held the upper hand. "We need to talk," Samantha said. "No," I said. "You need to listen." She blinked, caught off guard. Cole stepped forward, as if to intimidate me with sheer presence. "Look," he said, "we know you're upset. But this whole cut-off thing, it's not gonna work. You think we'll just roll over and disappear?" "No," I replied. "I think you'll try exactly what you're doing right now, showing up, threatening, bluffing. That's why this will be the last time I answer this door." Samantha's mouth twisted. "We're family." "You weaponized that word," I said flatly. "You've used it as leverage, as guilt, as currency, but not anymore. Dad, you're acting like we're the enemy." "You sent a snake," I said sharply. "You laughed about it." Cole's face darkened. "It wasn't even venomous. It was symbolic," I replied. "And it worked. It showed me exactly who you are." Samantha took a shaky breath. "So what? This is it? You're just cutting me out of your life, out of everything?" "No," I said. "You did that yourself." I handed her a plain white envelope. Inside was a copy of the new legal documents Margaret had prepared, restraining notice, inheritance revisions, all of it. She looked down at the papers. Her face went pale. You changed the will." "I changed everything," I said. "You and Cole have no access to our finances. And if you step foot on this property again uninvited, it won't be a conversation, it'll be a police report." Cole's jaw tensed. "You think this is over?" "It is," I replied. "Legally, financially, emotionally." Samantha's voice cracked. "You'd choose money over your daughter. I'm choosing peace over abuse, protection over fear, sanity over cycles." Then I closed the door. Not hard, not in anger. Just, finally. Helen met me in the hallway, her eyes full of quiet pride. "They're gone," she whispered. "Not yet," I said, "but they will be." Because for the first time in 30 years, we had locked the door from the inside, and this time we wouldn't be opening it again. The next morning, I stood outside a grey stone building downtown with a folder tucked under my arm. Helen had offered to come with me, but I told her no. This was something I needed to finish myself. The 3rd floor held the office of Margaret Kessler, our family attorney for nearly 2 decades. She had guided us through wills, property titles, and even Helen's mother's estate years ago. But today, our business was different. It wasn't about building something, it was about closing a chapter. Margaret looked up from her desk as I entered. "Mr. Lawson." Right on time. I sat down across from her, exhaling deeply. "I'm ready." "I reviewed everything you sent," she said, pulling up a digital document on her screen. We'll finalize the changes today: removal of Samantha and Cole as beneficiaries, transfer of inheritance into a restricted educational trust for Emma and Ben, and the restraining order paperwork is already in motion. I nodded. No exceptions, no access, not even a loophole. There aren't any, she said gently. And the trust protects the grandchildren without giving their parents control. For years I had imagined retirement as a time of reflection, trips with Helen, birthdays with the grandkids, maybe even teaching them to fish at the lake house one day. But that future had changed. Not because of me, but because my daughter had shown me who she truly was. I used to think protecting her meant giving her what she asked for. I told Margaret. Now I know it means protecting her from the damage she causes to herself and everyone around her. Margaret smiled sadly. You're not the first parent to reach that conclusion, but you might be one of the bravest to act on it. I signed the final document. With one pen stroke, I had removed every avenue Samantha had used to control us. No more monthly payments. No more credit card access. No more leverage. That afternoon, Helen and I sat together in the kitchen. Sunlight poured through the windows as she stirred a pot of soup. For the first time in months, I felt no tension in my shoulders, no buzz of dread under my skin. My phone buzzed. A message from Margaret. Restraining order delivered at 2:32 p.m. Legal protections are now active. You're clear. Helen glanced at me. It's done. It's done. She set the spoon down, walked over, and placed her hands gently on my shoulders. You did the right thing. I nodded. I knew that now. Love doesn't mean surrender. It doesn't mean silence. And sometimes, the only way to save your family is to cut away the part that refuses to stop hurting you. That evening, I stood on the back porch and watched the sun drop behind the trees. No screaming phone calls, no emails, no knocks at the door, just peace. And for the first time in 30 years, I let myself breathe.